Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Ramadan Kareem. On behalf of the United Arab Emirates Internal Auditors Association, I welcome you to the first session of the 5-day series that are being held by the association to create awareness about internal audit during May as an International Internal Audit Awareness Month. By the way, the CPE credits will be issued and sent by next week. All the videos will be available on UAE IAS YouTube channel, and all the presentations will be uploaded on the association's website by next week. Should you have any questions, please write them down and they will be responded to in due time. Our speaker today is Mohammed Farouk, who is the founder and CEO of Textmedia. He is a seasoned entrepreneur, experienced business consultant, having exceptional knowledge based technical and commercial aspects. Today, Farouk will be talking about exploring the future of digital internal audit. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Mohammed Farouk. Mohammed, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. So I think it's 12 o'clock in UAE. I'm joining in from the UK. My name is Mohammed Farouk, as it's been introduced. So good to see everyone. Good to see everyone, and Ramadan Kareem to all of you. So I can't see you all, but I can see that we've got around 50 delegates attending the session. Good to see a good turnout. And today we'll be talking about internal audit and the use of artificial intelligence. So we just have an hour, so I'll be talking through the topic for, let's say, 45 minutes, 45 to 50 minutes. And if I can finish it early, I'll finish it early, and then let's have some questions around it. And please remember that even if you're not able to take up all your questions, I would be very happy to run individual meetings and sessions if you're keen to understand more, or if you have some areas to be explored together. So don't consider this as the only meeting. We can go further and talk about it more, or we can have follow-up sessions right after this. So so with your permission, I'm getting started. So this is a bit about me. I don't want to bore you with a lot of stories. So I've started this company 11 years back, and now currently we have around we're present in 8 countries, and these are some of my credentials. So recently I've completed a course with University of Oxford on venture financing, and last year it was on AI, and I also do a bit of lecturing with the University of Leeds. And and after the session I would be very happy to share the slides. So if you can, I'll share it with Yasmin, and probably she can share it with you all. Yeah, today we would be looking at I know the Ramadan is it's Ramadan, so I'll not keep it very heavy. I'll keep it very simple and light. So we would look at internal audit analytics with the use of machine learning, and we'll also look at internal controls and audit. And when I say internal controls, I'm talking about controls in general. And we'll also look at what kind of competencies and what kind of initiatives we should look at being the auditor or being an audit professional for now and the future. And finally, this is an exciting stuff for me to run the session. I want you to write or I want you to put together a wish list of in terms of internal audit scenarios. So let's put together a few business cases from your own organization, because I don't think there's a better way of learning than doing it or trying to do it. So I don't know everything, and I think it is when we learn, when we do things together. So we would be very happy to do understand your existing business cases and wish lists, and we can do a pilot business case and run a pilot project as well if you're keen on that. And before we wind up, we'll have a quick chat on the AI governance. And as there is no governing body globally for AI as a practice, so every country is taking their own initiatives, or they have their own initiatives to run the governance process in place. But we being the internal audit professionals, it's important to understand the governance side and to help others to execute. In fact, our own organizations to have a strong and resilient governance process for digital projects, and especially for the AI projects. We'll have a quick look at those as well, right? And if you have any questions at any point of the presentation, please type it in. So I won't be taking up questions in between. I'll take up questions at the end of the session only. Okay. So before we start, so I just want to put some context over here. So just to let you know that AI is no magic. So it has got a lot of hard work, to build an AI algorithm or a statistical model. Once it is built, I think it can be faster as and when it gets matured. The accuracy grows, the precision grows as and when we train the machines into a better mode. So it is like we all getting experience as and when we work. The machine learning algorithm or the statistical model does the same thing, as and when it learns or we train it more. And most important thing for us to understand is, you know, the results what we're going to get is based on what kind of data we're going to feed in. So it is, as we always say, garbage in would give you garbage out. So the quality of data is very important. AI needs to have very strong control, so hence the need of a very strong governance. And one important thing we all have to understand that it cannot replace the professional judgment of internal auditors. So it is not a replacement of auditors. It is actually augmenting the internal audit or augmenting any domain of the business with the best insights possible from the tons of data we have within our business. So it would help you to find your associations, patterns, and connections, which is lying behind your large data sets. And it would get to you would get to see what stories are behind these information. So it's important for us to understand this practice before we get started. We think that okay, AI is very fast. It is very fast once the model is built, but if we have to build the model, we need to teach, and the system has to learn, and then it has to start working. But it will take its own time to get into a matured mode or a matured model, right? So let's get going. So in terms of decision making, we all make a lot of decisions from different angles based on the business objectives, based on the information available for us. So I just want to ask a quick question, so you don't need to answer this at this point of time, but I want you to answer it for yourself. Basically, how do you make decisions in your personal or professional life? So is it based on your intuition? Is it based on your gut feeling? Or is it based on your subject matter expertise? Or do you refer data all the time? Or do you refer information all the time? Or is it based on your team's or colleagues' opinion? So there is the reason why I ask you this question. Most of the time, we trust our intelligence, we trust our intuition, we trust our gut feeling, or we trust our colleagues' opinion. It is very rare we get to see everything together when we take a decision. But I can see that because of the technology platforms and because of the business intelligence platform we have slowly started moving into this domain. But I'm leaving it you to answer. And so when we look at taking these decisions, what kind of data we get to see, like what kind of outputs we get to see. So generally we get to see dashboards, we get to see the results of the assessments, audits, and analysis, or self-assessment, or benchmarking, or reporting. So like you can have predefined static and dynamic reports, or you can have collaborative dashboards. And what do we analyze? So when we look at data, what do we analyze? We analyze the business performance and conformance. But most of the time, the old way of doing audits, I'm assuming, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the old way of doing audits were purely looking at the conformance or the compliance side of the business, and mostly more like a fault finders. But now internal audit profession is completely changed, so it is basically looking at the business performance and the conformance together. So it may include the likes of governance, risk, compliance, strategy, your internal controls, your service excellence, the level of your products and services and its performance, everything around your organizational portfolio, right? So so what kind of business stories we get to see generally? I'm just telling those things which we all know, but I just want to bring this story together so that we understand how machine learning is done and why do we do machine learning, right? So what business stories do we have? We always have historic data, right? So to see that, what happened, because when we do the audit, when we do the assessment, generally we get to check, like these were the things which we were supposed to do, and how many of them have been done, how many of them have been not done, and what happened and what is happening. I'm not very sure about, like how many organization would be looking at, the real-time data. But it's very important and vital that we have this information in place, so we always know what happened and what's happening. And we also look at the investigations and the root cause analysis in the form of, to understand why is it happening, and what's the root cause of these happening, right? Now, why do we analyze the data? Because so when we analyze the data, we understand that there are so many major issues. So you cannot do an audit for your 100% of your data, and so you always do a sample size of your data. The growing customer needs and expectations, the competence of the individuals and the team we work with, the culture of the organization, the maturity of the organization. And the most important thing is that the size of data is very huge, and most importantly, the complex data, the complex data structure, and as well as the complex regulatory environment, which is getting more complex day by day. So we all know that we've got very strong business intelligence platform to run these, but how do we make it better? What do we have, right? So how about introducing machine learning with human intelligence, or machine intelligence with human intelligence? This is where we start to apply the artificial intelligence in the form of machine learning. Please remember the fact that machine learning is one of the subset of artificial intelligence, or one of the methods of artificial intelligence, or applying artificial intelligence. So we all know that machines can't think. So what we do is that we train the machines, and the machine learns, and then it applies the learning. Then we train again, we test the precision. And so what we are asking the machines to do is that machines to learn and act according to multiple business scenarios, right? So what do we expect? What do we expect machine to do from us? How is it different from a standard software program? So so basically, the machine learning would possibly act without explicit programming. You don't need to write codes for everything. Once the machine starts learning, it starts mimicking the human actions wherever possible, right? So what we are trying to do is that we are trying to test the machine intelligence, which is purely artificial, which is why it is called as artificial intelligence, where machines are trained and taught and using human intelligence. So without the human intelligence, it is not possible. So it can be in the form of robotization, it can be in the form of augmenting, right? So so these are some of the definitions. I don't want to go in depth of the so it's basically, it says that anything that makes machines act more intelligently. So the reason I'm putting these basics in place is just to make sure that we all are very clear with what is artificial intelligence and what is machine learning, and how is it done, and what's the key focus areas of when we try to apply the machine learning, right? So we had a look at the data insights in the form of historic data, like what we said, what happened and what is happening, which is a real-time data. And most importantly, we also had a look at why is it happening. But how many of you have started looking at what is likely to happen? I'm not talking about the basic what if analysis or the basic regression and classification which we generally do. I'm talking about, finding associations and patterns from millions of terabytes of data by using to predict and forecast. And so basically, what machine learning would help you to focus is to understand what is likely to happen. This is would help you to anticipate what will happen, and also it would provide the recommendations. So when I say recommendations, so by looking at the historic data and by looking at the predictive modeling, it would also tell you if this happens, these are the best recommendations for you to go through. So if I have to give you an example for recommendation, so you all watch Netflix. So when you open your Netflix account, you get to see a lot of movie recommendations, right? And so that is basically one of the best and the most talented or the best trained recommendations engines in the world. So it does, so depending on which area you want to need the recommendations, it needs to have enough of data in that domain. So the most important thing for us to understand here is that when we are talking about machine learning, it is advanced analytics. And when we talk about advanced analytics, it is talking about what to anticipate and what is likely to happen. So if you look at the entire internal audit flow, right from looking at your internal audit strategy, conducting a risk assessment and your risk-based internal audit planning, your audit field work, your issue management, your timesheets, so throughout the process, you can apply, the machine learning in terms of depending on what kind of KPIs and what kind of domains you want to explore. It can be your cybersecurity, it can be your fraud management, it can be a business resilience, it can be a crisis management, it can be a business continuity, it can be your employee welfare, it can be your internal controls with related to procurement. So it could be anything in terms of what exactly would you like to see. So I don't have a lot of time to go through each and every area where you can do the analytics, but I'm just talking in general what are the key domains in terms of looking at the machine learning as the process, right? So if you look at this picture, this slide is taken from one of there is a document defined by McKinsey, and they say an executive guide to AI. So they're talking about the focus of machine learning with the predictive and prescriptive analytics, so which is exactly what we have discussed right now, right? So I want you to answer a question here, Yasmin, if you can put together a question. So I really want to understand where exactly are you today in terms of your analytics maturity. So please answer this question. So I want to see that where are you right now? Are you on level 1? I think you're easily on level 1 and 2 is very well covered. I'm very keen to know that are you on level 3 or level 4? And so if you can see that the more up you go the ladder, the difficulty grows, but the value also grows. So it's important that you realize that where exactly you are, so that you can plan accordingly. So the question is, where exactly are you today? And have you completed the level 3? Have you started looking at it? Or like, I don't know exactly, so probably you can answer this question. And another important thing, I don't want you to just to listen to my story and go away. I really want you to make a plan in terms of your analytics maturity. We all want to be on level 4 and beyond level 4, and to be there on the circle of excellence. But the most important thing is that if you're on level 2, are you planning to go to level 3? What steps or what thinking process you have within your organization to take it to level 3? Are you talking to your board of directors? Are you talking to your senior management to make it to level 3 and level 4? But please put together a date of your initiative by when are you planning to be there? Is it after 3 years? Is it after 5 years? Is it tomorrow? I don't really know. So you know the answer. So that's a bit about the machine learning side of the business. Right now, let's look at the second topic, which is the internal controls or controls in general. So if you look at the 3 lines of defense model, or the 3 lines model by IIA, I don't think I'm an expert in it, so you guys would be probably. Yeah, so internal controls are always been considered as one of the, or controls are always been considered as one of the most important criteria of these models. Right, so I want to ask another question here. So we all know that we do very strong risk assessment, but I know that you've got the best of the best tools in terms of your recipes, in terms of your Microsoft, in terms of your technology platforms, your audit software, your analytics platforms. But I really want to understand, have you ever done a mapping like this? So you have an organization structure, you understand your key processes, you make a list of all your controls against these processes, and you've got a control portfolio, you've got a process portfolio, you connect these process and people together with a RACI matrix. It doesn't have to be a RACI matrix, a very simple RACI matrix. I know that like most of your controls are automated, but some of them are still manual. But even if you have the best of the best platform, do you have a centralized register where you can see all your organizational processes and people and control put together in one place? Right, so my question to you, Yasmin, if you can ask the second question. So so if you can ask the second question, probably, I'm very keen to understand this. This has a lot to do with your organizational efficiency, especially when you look at your internal audit. Because if you have your business processes connected to your controls, and while doing the risk assessment, like instead of searching for the existing controls, if you have got that library, the system can automatically pop that up for you. And then every time you identify the control deficiency, or so the you can always see that, okay, what additional controls are required, and every time you add these additional controls, the system can automatically update that. And that the accountability plays a very important part. And most importantly, against all of them, you also need to have an understanding of how many of them are manual, how many of them are automated, because this plays a very important role throughout your risk assessment. Because while doing the risk assessment, if you don't have access to this, it's going to be very difficult. And the output of risk assessment is generally used on your risk-based internal audit planning. Again, if you don't have the right information there, it's going to have a wrong input over there. So I don't think I need to explain this in detail. So this is an intelligent mapping. So what I would strongly recommend you to do is to do this intelligent mapping throughout the internal audit process. I've actually done that. If anybody is interested to see that, I can show that using a very simple and effective dashboard, but I don't have time to go through that. Probably that will take around 25-30 minutes. So if any of you is interested to see the entire internal audit mapping similar to this, connecting each other, even I can learn from you all, because I've done it myself with the help of my team. Probably I would like you to see that and say that, okay, this is missing, and this can be improved and this can be updated. Right, and let's look at like what generally AI does when it comes to the risk management. So so when you're talking about risk management and internal controls, so you always look at existing controls. And so rather than looking at a list register and a static risk assessment, the biggest promise of technology would be to give you a dynamic 24/7 365 days risk assessment. So whenever there is a deviation, the system will detect, and the system will notify, and and escalate those information to relevant stakeholders. So it can give you risk recommendation. It can actually tell you the probability and the impact size as well, the financial impact, the reputational impact. But it cannot be just done overnight. It has to do a lot of planning, and it should go through a very strong modeling. And so what I'm visualizing here is that when you talk about your risk assessment, I'm looking at a screen where I can see my entire list of controls, and I can monitor my processes, and I can see that where are my controls deviating on a real time. So this is never easy, but this is the vision. And probably if you have the same vision, and if you have the same foresight, we can discuss more on this. So the risk register, rather than looking at it once in a while, it has to be dynamic, and it can be done on a dynamic mode, so the risk recommendations can happen. So, and when it comes to the audit field work, when it comes to the audit field work, we always look at developing a testing strategy, and we look at the design of it, we look at the implementation of it, we always look at the document review, we look at conducting interviews, and we look at the implementation of controls, like how well have they executed. Now let's look at what kind of activities can be carried out when you look at your document review and testing using artificial intelligence. So these are very familiar keywords. So what can happen is that it can extract data from, let's say, if you have got a 10,000 page document, and if you have got a 200 page contract or a 100 page contract, it can actually extract, it can read and interpret information, it can extract information, it can classify information, match according to the criteria what you want, and it can find the patterns and association for you to analyze. So it's important that we set the right criteria, and then it would classify, analyze the pattern, detect and filter, and it can also give you a real-time tracking and recommendation as well. So each of these area would be like a separate business cases, and it would take a lot of time to get them together. But we've done few excellent business cases in the form of information extraction from regulatory documents, and so it can be applied a lot on regulatory compliances as well. So it can apply on your document review, right? So let's look at what all can be done in terms of your document review. So when you say extraction, we're talking about the NLP algorithms. When I say, so it's natural language programming, it can read and interpret critical information from large volume of data. So if somebody asks me and you to review a 4-page document, it's very easy for us to do that. But if we have that 4-page document in 100 quantity or 1,000 quantity, it's not easy. So we only read and understand the sample size of it. Or if you have got a 10,000 page document, if you have got a 100-page contract, it is very important for us to apply the machine intelligence, and then review that machine intelligence and take decisions by us, not through the machines. But so the machine can bring you all the insights and associations and patterns. It can give you the recommendation, it can give you the analysis and its results, and basically what you get to see is simply get to understand the story behind the data, the insights behind that data, to take these informed decisions, right? And this is another interesting thing. You all would agree that we do we take a target population, and then we decide on a sample population depending on the criteria what we have. So we know that we do a testing by systematic sampling from a long time. But I don't know how many of you have started looking at or exploring using 100% 100% testing, or 100% review of all the information of the entire organization and its stakeholders, or the entire supply chain using artificial intelligence. This is a major possibility, and a lot of organizations have started doing it as well, right? So for all of us, there is a possibility of looking at 100% data on a real time, on a continuous basis. We call it as continuous assurance, or like continuous monitoring. So you're going to have a proactive approach of looking at the entire data, against all the controls, against all the organizational objectives, against all the risks we have identified, throughout our organization. So this can be another interesting business case. I'm very happy to explore with you all, like if you're keen to take it to the next level. And I know that, we've got very strong controls in place. We've got the best of the best tools in place, but these softwares, like I'm not blaming any technology platform, can be enhanced when we start applying the artificial intelligence against it. So, and this is another interesting thing, like you may think of an FBI, or you may think of, an interrogation over here. But, like using AI for interview, when, like when you talk to people, you can actually use, voice analytics. But this is not a very, it would be highly optimistic basically to say that, this can be used. We'll have to consider the culture. Nobody likes to record, when you start talking to someone without the permission. But this is highly used, especially if you have a call center. This is highly used to extract information from large volume of calls. You cannot go and check each of the calls in order to look at the customer service, in order to look at the behavior of your staff, in order to look at the service excellence. So this can be actually used from large data sets of voice data. And voice analytics can be classified, and the stories can be analyzed using the voice analytics. So generally used on call center data or any kind of large voice data, to understand the patterns and behavior and the insights for that. But I don't think that, okay, this is very much used in as part of an interview of an internal audit. So these are used by the likes of the police departments and the likes of FBIs and all of them big time, right? So other than all these business cases, there are some other more scenarios which we can look into. So when you do your internal audit planning, this may sound crazy, but every year you do like every year you do an internal audit planning. And we know what kind of risks we have, what kind of risk assessment results we have, what kind of processes we have, which are high risk and which are low risk, what's our organizational objectives. These things are known to us all the time, right? But what happens is every year we tend to spend a month or a 45 days or a 60 days in order to complete our internal audit planning and get the review and approval from the top management. But how about if we have got something like a recommendation engine like a Netflix, where it considers all the data available, like which you can see on the blue circles, right? These are some of the data. It could be your previous audit results. It could be your compliance and complex regulatory scenario. It could be your previous internal audits. It could be any kind of technology platforms where you had data from. What if all these data can be analyzed, and based on certain criteria and a framework, it gives you 1, 2, 3 audit plans on a press of a button. I'm being very optimistic here. We have started working on such a plan recently, and we would like you to join, if you're keen to join in that journey. I'm not sure where we're going to go with it, but yes, it is at work. And we're also taking the help of some of the local universities here in the UK as well. So what it's going to give you is that it can give you 1 or 2 audit plans or 3 audit plans, where you're going to choose one of them, right? It's the best suitable one, and then make the relevant changes on top of it. So this sounds quite crazy, but I think this is very much possible, and as long as we have the information on the the blue circles available, right? So these are some of the other areas. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. We can use AI big time on fraud detection, and this is where the likes of anomaly detection. When I say anomaly detection, it generally picks the odd one out. So it could be fraud in terms of payments, it could be fraud in terms of contracts, it could be fraud in terms of any relevant activities, depending on what exactly you want to monitor. So you can actually set up a fraud detection system. It can be your manufacturing system, it can be your it can be your commercial engagements. so which can detect, notify, and alert you as and when it happens. It can be theft, right? So it can be data integrity issues from the employees. So anything of that sort is trying, so you would get to see the notification. And so it can be also escalated. So it's a standard example of fraud detection in banking. I'm not going through that. So it's feeding the data, extracting the features, then training and building the training and building the model. So these statistical model help you to the machines automatically detect, and it can predict. So the anomaly detection can also be used for large manufacturing units in order to find out the asset issues, when it's going to go bad, and so all of these things. So I'm not going to go detail in that. So it can be used for cyber security, for threat detection and prevention and recovery. If you look at the earlier conversation, we looked at what is likely to happen, and as well as what are the prescription if that happens. So this can be used for cyber security, business continuity, information security. And how this is done in general, so this sound very interesting and promising, but we all need to understand the fact that it has to go through a very strong foundation, where you have to go through a data pre-processing by doing a data mining, integrating the data, creating a knowledge graph. When I say knowledge graph would connect each and every data point based on its relevance and association by using AI capabilities. Then you can look at the basics of analytics in terms of your predictive analytics, your data visualization, uh, you know then you can look at your robotic intelligence and cognitive intelligence, where you can apply your natural language processing. So a few examples for the natural language processing which we interact on a daily basis would be the likes of Siri, the likes of Alexa. So you can create your own chatbots and similar things within your organizations. But how useful would that be for your organization? And how easy can you build them, depending on that. But if you look at the first bit of it, if you're ready to do the foundation bit, so it is important for you to understand what kind of data you have, what kind of data lakes you have, and are they structured information, are they scanned documents, or mostly government organizations have got a lot of scanned information. So there are intelligent platform even to extract information from scanned documents. The accuracy is relatively low comparing to the other extraction methods. But yes, so all the structured and unstructured data can be put together and analyzed. And when we're talking about machine learning has got three methods. It's called supervised learning, where you have the structured data and you do the supervised learning. And there is something called unsupervised learning. Unsupervised learning is large data set which is thrown into the machine, and the machine will be trained based on some sample data, and then the machine will start identify the patterns and associations within that large data set, which is not relatively possible by the human mind to find out associations and patterns from millions of terabytes of data, right? So the third version of the machine learning is called reinforcement learning, which is a mix of the first two, basically the supervised and unsupervised learning. So I'm very happy to take you through all these things, but I don't want to bore you with technical terminologies, right? And I know that we all are getting ready for the future. So what are we trying to do in terms of building our skills for the future? So this is actually given by one of our colleagues, so in terms of what kind of people who are there in terms of the digital the digital domain. So are we talking about, are you a digital skeptic? Do you want to really learn? Are you a follower? Are you an expert? Are you a leader? I think it is important for the directors and internal audit managers to raise yourself. I know that you would be attending all the conferences, and you would be reading all the blogs and all possible write-ups around this, it's important that you transform yourself as a digital leader. So in order for you to be a digital leader, I think it's important that we all have to get informed and educated. So rather than going for a lot of courses, I think AI is really big. We cannot just learn it overnight, but we really need to understand what are the types of AI available, and what is artificial intelligence, what is machine learning, and what is deep learning. Deep learning is one of the methodologies of conducting machine learning. So AI is machine learning is a subset of AI, and deep learning is a subset of machine learning. So, and then identify AI leaders within your organization, identify AI champions within your organization, conduct regular quizzes, conduct regular sessions. You don't need to call experts from external organization. I think that there's a lot available over the internet and over the e-learning platforms. And it's important that you read and understand. And the most important thing is that connect it to your regular business practices and try to see how those can be applied. Are they relevant? And this is where you start identifying the opportunities for automation. When I say opportunities for automation, I'm not talking artificial intelligence. I'm talking about what are the possibilities of automating your manual controls? What are the possibilities of digitizing your manual processes? There are very smart applications available to do this. But if you have this information structured, this would be very useful when you actually do your machine learning process, because if you have structured data, the results are going to be very useful. And the next thing is that identify opportunities for AI. You don't need to identify opportunities for the sake of implementing AI. So look at your organizational objectives, look at your current risk portfolio, look at your internal controls portfolio. You know that how efficient are they at this point of time. If you really want to boost the speed of it, if you want to make sure that you've got more efficient processes in place, if you want to make sure that you want to be different, or you want to be differentiating from yourself from the competition, if you want to improve your capability, if you want to improve your competence as an organization, I think we all have to look at what are the possible use cases we can look into in order to apply artificial intelligence. So what's your wish list? I would strongly recommend you to start writing them. Please start writing those wish lists, and we can discuss on those wish lists. We can help you to put that into a proper business case. I'm not talking money here. I'm not trying to sell something here. All what I'm saying is that this is a social responsibility for us to transform whatever little we know, and to help you to learn, help you to understand. And during that process, we help you to learn more on internal audit challenges, where we can go and recommend to other organizations as well. So it is a combined portfolio where we work together. And I'm not talking any of what I'm discussing right now will not be coming with an invoice or a proposal. It's a very simple activity between us as two organizations, or as three organizations, with the help of IIA, UA chapter. We can always do that and help each other. That's exactly what we are doing. So I'm just saying that reach out to us. And what we do is that reaching out to us, we connect your thoughts, we connect your complex business scenarios, understand your possible AI use cases, and also we've got a strong research team who can look into the current case studies which has been implemented in some other part of the world. And we would be very happy to do an experiment and testing process. And so just to showcase that these are the areas which you can which you can explore. This comes with another question. Yasmin, if you can put together the last question, which talks about have you identified any of your business cases, and and have you started experimenting and testing it? If you have got internal capabilities, please do it yourself. And if you don't have internal capabilities to experiment and test it, we would be very happy to explore it, right? So what we are talking about is building an AI powered organization. So our job is to facilitate AI for everyone. So that's very important. So just to let you know that you don't need to talk to 10 people. You can reach to me directly. And so this is my mobile number. Basically, I'm available on WhatsApp on this number, and this is my email ID. Or you can reach to Yasmin, like if you really want to explore it big time. So yes, I would say that I'm keeping the screen in case if you want to note it down. I would say that this would be a brilliant experience for all of us. So but again, leaving it to you to decide. And before we wind up and move on to the questions, I would say that this is a governance model. This is not done by anybody else. This is actually I have developed it as part of my course with the University of Oxford. Where we had to develop an ethical AI governance framework. So I've taken the best practices of the other governance frameworks like the ISO 38500 were the IT governance, the information security governance, the corporate governance, a bit from the COSO, a bit from the three lines of defense in terms of the accountability, now in terms of the principles and best practices of multiple business frameworks. So here we are talking about 5 or 6 key business principles. I would strongly urge you to create an ethical AI governance framework within your organization if you're seriously planning to implement AI or digital transformation. Because the more digital platforms you bring in, you need to make sure that there is accountability and responsibility, there is fairness, and most importantly, this is ethical, and it ensure the safety and reliability as well. And most importantly, let's not forget the privacy and security. So you can put them together as separate principles. So this was an educational assignment for me, so I wanted to score more marks. So like I've put together everything here. But so you can see that how the model works. It's evaluate, direct, monitor, communicate, and so you can see the whole process, how it works out. So I just wanted to share this with you, but this may not be a perfect governance model. You all better understand your own organizations and your own region. So I would strongly recommend you to start building something similar, and even propose this to your national governments and regional governments, because most of the governments are struggling to put these together. So currently we are working with the Scottish national government. So recently they have launched their AI strategy. So we are helping them to build an AI governance platform and a framework in terms of a portal where all the AI products and services needs to be registered and go through an approval, because it needs to be made sure that it doesn't have any bias. It has got it ethical and ethical and moral frameworks as well in place. So that ends the presentation from my side. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to take it. So hope you have enjoyed the session, or I was not too fast.
Thank you, Farouk. You have a couple of questions on the chat box. Can you check it and answer them, please? On the chat box.
1 sec. I can. Okay, what is the future of internal auditors among technology? I think we all have got a bright future, in terms of internal auditors as a profession. The only thing I would say is that the machines are not going to take over, right? But people are going to take over if we are not going to learn, right? So the machines are not going to replace us, but more intelligent people are going to take our places if we are not going to be learning. Because it's just like when when we had computer came in, the typewriters vanished, but nobody lost the job who was doing the data entry. They started using computers for doing the data entry process, right? So similarly, all what we have to do is that learn and understand what are the key skill sets, educate yourself and make sure that because even if you're not using AI within your organization, when you go and audit, when you go for an external or an internal audit, I'm saying that, okay, I've got a blockchain platform. How are you going to audit a blockchain platform? What is the risk of, and how are you going to trust the results of a blockchain platform? How are you going to trust the machine intelligence and its results? So it's important to understand artificial intelligence and the emerging technologies. So let that be in the form of blockchain, let that be in the form of machine learning, let that be in the form of anomaly detection. It's important for you to understand and educate yourself. And so if you're thinking machines are going to take over, it is not. If you're thinking sitting idle as it is, and I'm going to improve by having only the regular qualifications, and so the subject matter expertise will be always there, but on top of that, you also need to understand what kind of emerging technologies and digital platforms are coming up, and you need to upgrade and educate yourself, and you need to upskill yourself. If you're an auditor and if your organization is really going for a digital transformation, you need to make sure that you're running with the same pace, right? They may give you a few trainings, but you need to make sure that you're doing it by yourself, upgrading yourself. So you cannot say that I've done my MBA 20 years back and I've done my CIA 10 years back, I'm the best in internal audit. But you need to transform yourself. What are the common platforms, IT infrastructure technologies used generally across the industry by IA departments that have implemented data analytics using ML and AI? That's a difficult question, to be honest. Everybody claims to be, if you look at any website of any software provider, so they say that, okay, AI enabled, and it's very difficult to understand where have they enabled AI. So I'm not really sure how strong. I've not seen many platforms with AI implemented in internal audit as a domain, but I would strongly say that in the space of risk management, there are plenty of domains, there are plenty of platforms which has come up, in terms of I will give you a few names. To be honest, I'm not getting those names on top of my head, but I can, if you can share your email ID, I can send you some names, so to be honest. But I would say, yes, everybody's claiming to have AI and artificial intelligence enabled, but AI enablement is not just having a what if analysis or a basic predictive modeling. I'm talking about when you talk about AI enablement, do you have these kind of, now let's say when you go for a testing process, do you still have to write all the queries what you generally do using the likes of ACL and using the likes of other analytics platform? You still have to write all the queries manually? I don't think we should be doing it, but if that's the only way, we have to do it. But what I'm saying is that can we automate our testing process, right? How fast can we do that? In order to do that, have we automated our internal controls and other controls? Have we digitized that? Have we digitized our processes? So we cannot have manual processes in place and look at implementing artificial intelligence. But yes, I would say right from your internal audit strategy and managing your issues, throughout the process, internal audit use cases are explored big time, and there are very strong platforms. So if you want to really check out, there are very strong platform in the space of regulatory technology, legal technology. The reason I'm talking about legal technology, they've actually built some very intelligent platform to review the contracts automatically or review the contracts. So there are smart contracts platforms and very intelligent smart contract platforms, which can review thousands of pages of contracts intelligently. And there are very smart information extraction methodologies which are available. So these things are available, but those are not directly implemented in internal audit. But if you look at a typical internal audit process, when you're conducting your field work or audit process, you conduct interviews. So you have got your voice analytics, like what we have discussed. When you do your document review, you've got your NLPs in terms of information extraction and finding out the intelligence behind it. And when you do your testing, you have the same process of testing your 100% of audit. And so if you ask me, I've not seen a lot of matured platforms for internal audit using machine learning, and but I've seen a lot of use cases explored from different angles, but a lot of them have not been directly connected to the internal audit, but it can be very much used in the internal audit. I hope I answered that question. These are the questions I can see. Yasmin, anything else? Am I missing any questions?
Yes, there is the last question. I've just dropped it in your box. How
Okay.
do you recommend?
Automation should be approach in phases or a blanket approach and trying to automate all functions. I would strongly recommend to go through automation. The first thing we all have to understand is that take an inventory of your current technology platforms and current business processes and see how many of them are automated and how many of them are. So it's basically taking an inventory or taking a stock, and then identify few business cases within your own domain or any of your chosen domain. So it could be internal audit, it could be procurement, it could be finance. Choose some of your core business processes and identify the use cases and test only that use case initially. And once you see some light testing that, then you can scale that process throughout the organization. Even to test that process in the first phase, I would strongly say that test it only to that specific domain with some sample data, then scale that specific domain throughout the organization and throughout the supply chain, then look at the other options. So I would say strongly you will have to do 3 or 4 use cases separately and individually, collaborate, experiment, test, and see the results. And I think it has to go through certain maturity. It will build your confidence, and based on that you can scale it. Please don't go on a scaling mode initially. Please don't request for a budget for a full-fledged deployment of artificial intelligence throughout the organization. My personal recommendation or our organizational recommendation would be just identify few use cases, and before you start testing it yourself, I know that those are very important for you as a function. Please make sure that those are very important for your organization as well. For that, you need to present it to your board of directors or top management, whoever is keen, and see the impact size of it. Please remember this fact: if you're identifying a use case, make sure that you do a very strong impact analysis, the expected money value which is going to come out, and the expected operational values which is going to come out, how much operational efficiency it's going to bring, and what kind of money you're going to save. It is very, very important. Don't just do it for the sake of saying that like we have implemented artificial intelligence. So it is like I'm coming and telling you I've done 20 audits, I've closed, and I've got 60 findings, and I've closed all of them. So the CEO would come and tell you, so what? You've closed all of them, good for you. What is a positive and negative impact? So because of my audit findings, what is a positive impact it had? Did I have more customers? Did I have more revenue? Or if I had a compliance deviation, or if I'm facing a compliance deviation, am I going to be knowing right now that I'm going to be paying $100,000, right? So it's important to see the impact size and the expected money value for every business case. So write a business case, understand the scenario, put the context, and take it phase wise, one business case at a time. But if you're a matured organization, if you have got internal capabilities, you can go to the maximum use cases you would explore at one time, in my opinion, would be 5, not more than that. I would strongly say 1. And when you see the success, go to the rest of them. Yeah. So yeah, is there any other question?
That was wonderful. We really enjoyed it, and thank you for all the advice that you have given. I hope everybody will go through the presentation once again when it is on the website. Go through it, take all the tips that you have given them for implementing and for the way forward. Thank you very much. Looking forward to another session with you. Ladies and gentlemen, we all thank Mr. Mohammed Farouk for such a beneficial presentation. Looking forward to see you all tomorrow. Thank you and goodbye. Have a lovely afternoon. Take care.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.